Coming up on today's show, the end of 2012 brings new record-breaking number of app downloads.
RIM gears up to launch Blackberry 10 phones.
The first African-designed smartphone and tablet hits the market.
And we're putting the Apple iPad mini to the test. How does it stack up to its older, possibly more dependable iPad ancestors?
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our new look insight for a brand new year.
Alhamdulillah, it's 2013 and we're looking forward to a year full of brand new gadgets and technologies that we can only dream about. It should be a pretty exciting year ahead.
As we step into this new year, let's take a final look back at the end of 2012, when Apple's iPad proved to be the big winner of the final quarter. While Apple isn't yet revealing just how many iPads were sold during the lucrative month of December, record-breaking figures of downloads and activations point to huge sums for Apple as well as Amazon's Kindle Fire HD7.
The online site Flurry says 328 million apps were downloaded just on December the 25th, with 51% of them tablets and 49% smartphone. Now that's a huge increase from Christmas Day 2011, when only 242 million apps were downloaded.
Well, Flurry estimated that daily activations of iOS and Android devices averaged 4 million in the first 20 days of December, with 17.4 million new activations on December the 25th.
Experts predicted that downloads would hit the record-breaking billion mark by New Year's Day. They said the activity should stabilise now that most tablet and phone users are back to work after the New Year's holidays.
So the Apple iPad is still going strong after all these years, with Apple's latest offering, the iPad mini, proving to be a hit. But what we really want to know is whether or not the Apple mini stands up to Apple's previous offerings, or if it's just another gimmick to get us to buy another gadget we can't really live without. We're putting the iPad mini to the test against its older predecessors but more dependable brother.
Okay, so I have the iPad mini here in the studio, which we're going to have a quick look at. Now obviously Apple have made this device a lot smaller than the previous versions of the iPad, and the reason that is because they want it to be more portable, and also it's the price factor as well. There's a lot of other tablets now in the market which are a lot smaller and a lot cheaper than the original iPads.
Yeah, the original iPad is definitely bigger, maybe easier to view films and things, but it's the portability that may count in terms of the mini.
Yeah, I mean it all depends on what you're going to use it for. Something like this would be ideal if you're on the move quite a lot. Especially for people who relatively don't want to watch as many films and games maybe. So you've got a device which is a lot more portable, but if you wanted to watch HD videos, I would much rather prefer to watch it on a bigger screen.
It depends on your own preference. Some people want to watch it on a bigger screen. You could be lying in your bed and find it difficult to actually view something bigger to hold. Something smaller may be easier for you to actually hold and lift up. I mean, it's half the weight with the iPad mini.
That's right, it's really small, it's very lightweight, very portable. I'm a bit disappointed it doesn't have the Retina display. The third generation iPad has a really nice, beautiful Retina display, and unfortunately that's missing in this device.
Well, for our viewers, tell us a bit more about what the Retina display actually means.
The Retina display gives a lot more vivid colours, it's got much higher resolution as well, and if you've actually seen it, it's one of those things you have to really see to believe. You get much crisper text, video, everything looks much better for videos, gaming, everything.
And the iPad 2 doesn't have the Retina display?
No, that's right, iPad 2 doesn't, but the third generation iPad did, one of its best features, and unfortunately the iPad mini doesn't have it.
So if you're going for something new, the iPad mini doesn't have the Retina display, whereas the iPad 3, the newer version of the iPad, does have the Retina display.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, one of the things I really like about this is the new Lightning connector as well. Charging it is much faster, and also the cameras are worth mentioning. They're really good 5-megapixel cameras. We've taken some pictures with it and the quality is really good.
So the old iPad had this chunkier, thicker type of connector. This Lightning, what's this?
Well, it's a much faster connection, and it means that not only can you transfer data faster, but also you'll notice that charging the iPad is much faster than in previous ones.
And this Lightning connector, apparently you can have lots of different uses and methods of use of the iPad, like
yeah,
USB
I mean, whenever you get an iPad, there's a whole array of different accessories that you can always use, whether you're connecting it to different devices or TV screens and things like that. But you do get a much faster data rate with it, and it's something that Apple are using throughout their devices, whether it's laptops or iPads or iPhones.
USB key-wise, you can't stick it directly into the mini? Or?
No, you can't. You've only got the Lightning connector on here, but it does have Bluetooth with it. It's a lot cheaper as well. I think that's an important thing to consider. But now Apple are competing directly with other manufacturers who make much smaller devices, such as the Amazon's Kindle Fire HD, and then you have the Nexus 7 as well, which are very good devices, and I have to say cheaper than the iPad mini.
So relatively cheaper to buy an iPad mini than an iPad, but then you have to compare the market for similar things, similar products, and then also what are you going to use it for? If you're going to use it for the screen size and you need it to be bigger, get the iPad. If you want it for something smaller, more portable, it's the iPad mini. Yeah. So both iPads have got cameras. Why not check them out? Why not test them?
Well, let's do a video test because my iPad mini can record 1080p actually. So let me just have a look at that. And why don't we
pick on Dogi?
Let's put the camera on the cameraman this time and have a look. Be able to compare the difference.
And besides the cameraman, it looks all fine.
Mine looks a lot more grainy compared to yours actually.
Okay, let's compare. Have a look and see.
Let's put the camera on the and let's see yours. Put the audio down. So let me just have a look at that.
Yeah, definitely more grainier.
It is, yeah. The colour's actually a lot nicer on yours.
But that could be deceiving simply because the screen is actually bigger, and so you're actually appreciating it more compared to a smaller screen. One has to remember, though, that the HD quality is on both. It's the resolution that's different. It's 1080 on your one.
Yep, and you have 720 on your
720 on this. However, the new Retina is actually better. The new iPad 3 is actually better in terms of its quality.
For the display, that's right. Also for the camera, taking still photos as well. The iPad, I remember the first iPad had a terrible camera. It's something they just completely overlooked, but they developed that, and now we've got 5 megapixel on the iPad mini. And if I just take a photo of the pen here, it's a lot crisper than it used to be before. So it's much sharper and a big improvement on the camera. The thing that you'll notice is a lot of people are actually taking pictures on their iPads more because of the improvements on the cameras.
Some people don't realise that the cameras have a difference between the front and the rear camera.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously there's a camera at the front here that we can use for FaceTime, and the iSight camera is the one that we use in the back, which on the iPad mini is 5 megapixel.
Which one's always tends to be better? It tends to be the rear camera.
The rear camera, that's right, yeah.
So we've talked about the software and its use, but what about the design concept? Has there been a major change from the iPad to the Mini?
Well, Apple are going through this sort of sleek slate design, and it's actually quite similar to the iPhone 5, which we reviewed in the last program.
Yep.
And you've got a model there. I mean, just have a look at the way the buttons are placed. We have the silent button here on the side as well, and the home button. The whole design of it is very similar to the iPhone 5. Mm-hmm. Even the materials that they've used in the back, you can see are very similar to the back design.
But I wouldn't call it a dramatic change to the iPad 2. I mean, it's nothing revolutionary that they've actually created. They've made it thinner, made it the sides a bit more slick.
Yep.
But not a revolutionary change in terms of the size of the screen.
Well, I mean, when technology is only this small, there's only so much you can do with it. Obviously, it's going to be a lot thinner and sleeker. But I quite like the look and feel of it, and especially if you've got the iPhone 5 as well, as something that will coordinate well with that technology as well.
Of course, it's not all good news for Apple. Spare a thought for Apple CEO this new year. Tim Cook has finally made it to the top of Apple Incorporated, but in his first full year as CEO, his pay package shrank about 99%.
But there is no need to feel too bad for Cook. Cook, the successor to the late Steve Jobs, was awarded total compensation of $4.17 million in 2012, down from $378 million in 2011. While Apple's shares are 35% higher than when Cook assumed the CEO role, they have lost a quarter of their value since they hit a lifetime high of $705 on September the 21st, as the company faces increasing competitions from phones using Google Incorporated's Android operating system.
So not quite the story you need to get your violin out for.
No, that's right.
One of the most anticipated new releases is almost upon us. After a turbulent year with many changes, Research in Motion will finally be releasing the make-or-break Blackberry 10 running smartphone at the end of this month.
The new phones are said to offer better productivity and work features for business users. Now, one of the devices, modelled after the Alpha B mock-up, features an all-touchscreen user interface, with the others will resemble the Bold with a physical keyboard and a smaller touchscreen, so far dubbed the Alpha C.
Along with an updated Blackberry Messenger, which will include free VoIP calls over Wi-Fi, the new phone will also allow users to split their personal and business files into separate profiles using an application called Balance.
With the recent release of Windows 8, Toshiba has designed a one-piece computer which can be used with or without a mouse and keyboard running the new operating system. Convenient and powerful, the LX830 comes with many options for expansion, all the while keeping the Metro UI's touchscreen attributes.
The Windows 8 interface allows access to additional functions by dragging from the edges, such as the right brings up the charms, including search, settings, and the start page from the left shows alternative views and programs, and dragging from the top or bottoms helps you to move them around within the programs.
Now, a smartphone and tablet said to be the first designed by an African company have been launched. The products, designed by a Congolese entrepreneur, are manufactured in China. Its name, Wei Si, means the light of the stars in the local Lingala language.
The VMK's device runs Google's Android software and retails at $170 for the smartphone and $300 for the tablet. The tablet offers Wi-Fi connectivity and 4 GB of internal storage. The smartphone has rear and forward-facing cameras and a 3.5-inch screen.
Now, there are plans to sell the devices across 10 other West African countries, as well as Belgium, France and India. The devices will come up against several already well-established and popular brands. Most notably, Blackberry makers Research in Motion has a significant presence on the continent, despite flagging sales in the Western market.
Well, could this be the biggest new thing for Africa?
Well, let's see what happens.
Popular too are the handsets from Nokia, which is working closely with Facebook to grow Africa's interest in both mobile communications and social networking. However, there is an increasing desire among African communities to support homegrown products, spurred by fledgling technology scenes in various cities across the region.
After weeks of anticipation that bordered on media frenzy, Pope Benedict solemnly put his finger to a tablet in mid-December and tried to send his first tweet, but something went a little wrong. The first try didn't seem to work. Apparently the Pope, who still writes his speeches by hand, pressed too hard and the tweet did not go through right away. So he needed a little help from one of his advisors.
The tweet was sent at the end of weekly general audience in the Vatican before thousands of people. The Pope already had just over 1 million followers in all of the languages combined minutes before he sent his first tweet, and the number was growing. The Pope actually has 8 linked Twitter accounts. At Pontifex, the main account is in English. The other 7 has a suffix at the end of the different language versions.
Now, the tweets will be going out in Spanish, English, Italian, Portuguese, German, Polish, Arabic and French. Other languages will be added in the future. The Pope, who as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church already has 1.2 billion followers in the standard sense of the word, won't be following anyone, the Vatican has said. A couple of London-based designers have come up with a sustainable lighting solution which uses gravity and sand as power. Developed with remote areas in mind, the gravity light aims to reduce reliance on kerosene in countries where many areas do not have access to electricity. It was created to provide power for light as and when it was required, with no limit to the runtime in any given night.
The gravity light is charged by attaching a bag filled with around 9 kilograms of materials such as sand, earth or rocks to the device, which gradually lowers, generating around 30 minutes worth of light. The light strength can also be adjusted so a warm glow will keep the light going for a longer amount of time. The charger can also power other devices such as radios and batteries using the same mechanics. This could be a great thing for those people in desperate situations.
Yeah, that's right. It's one of those things with technology. It's not about generating gadgets and things like that. It's about developing technologies that can change people's lives.
And using basic materials that are around everywhere.
That's right. Now, as we just mentioned, technology isn't just for fun. It's being used for medical purposes as well. Satira Wireless Incorporated have designed an innovative armband which is able to track multiple vital signs while allowing patients to remain mobile. Called the VZ Mobile Patient Safety System, the wireless armband connects to a set of sensors attached to the body and monitors variables including your heart rate, blood oxygen, blood pressure, skin temperature and respiration rate, sending the information wirelessly to a computer at a nurse's station 17 to 57 feet away.
The device also allows staff to monitor multiple patients from one terminal or access them directly using a PIN number to reveal a colour-coded touchscreen display. The aesthetics follow strict medical guidelines and requirements. For example, green is always for heart rate, yellow is for respiration, etc. The company hopes to add constant blood pressure readings from and a patient activity and posture tracker to the device later on. It could be great for people working in hospitals, nurses who have to attend multiple beds at the same time. From one station they could see what's going on at every bed, and while the patients in the loo were having to move around, they know what's going on with that patient.
And also look at it from the patient's perspective as well. They're able to continue to be mobile and walk around the hospital, not having to be stuck down onto one bed.
Yeah, could be a great thing for hospitals.
Researchers believe that a simple eye scan can reveal the extent of multiple sclerosis. Commonly known as MS, it is an autoimmune disease that affects the brain and spinal cord and can cause loss of balance, muscle spasms, numbness or abnormal sensations, problems moving your arms or legs, problems walking, double vision and more.
Optical coherence tomography is a scan that measures the thickness of the lining at the back of the eye and retina. The OCT test can be done in a doctor's office and takes only a few minutes per eye. In a test conducted on 164 people with MS, it was seen that those with thinning of the retina had an earlier and more active MS.
Although brain scans can reveal inflammation and scarring, it is not clear how early these changes might occur in the disease and whether they accurately reflect ongoing damage. Scientists have been looking for additional ways to track MS and believe OCT may be a useful tool.
Researchers say that larger trials with a long follow-up are needed to judge how useful the tests might be in everyday practice. The study was published in the Journal of Neurology. Now, in terms of invasiveness, this could be a non-invasive procedure, a few minutes. And nowadays, the tests that have to go on for MS are huge, amount of time and input needed.
And imagine looking at it from the patient's perspective, you know, they can find out the details so much faster, which could potentially change their lives.
Yeah, it could be life-changing, this whole process.
Science news now. NASA's Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory mission came to an end in late December as planned when the Lockheed Martin and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory Flight Operations team commanded the two spacecraft to deorbit and impact the surface of the Moon.
The first of the orbiters, Ebb, impacted a predetermined mountain near the lunar North Pole with its twin, Flo, hitting nearby 30 seconds later. Lockheed Martin built the twin robotic spacecraft and conducted flight operations for NASA's JPL since their launch on September the 10th, 2011.
Finally this week, astronomers have found that one of the nearest single sun-like star hosts 5 planets, one of which is in the habitable zone where liquid water can exist. Tau Ceti's 5 planets were found using existing planet hunting data from HARPS, AAPS and HiRes, with the star now joining Alpha Centauri b as a nearby star known to host planets.
And about 12 light-years away from us, while Alpha Centauri b lies 4 light-years away, the planets were found by measuring the subtle effects they have on their host star's light. Although planets move around to orbit their star, the star is also tugged slightly back and forth. Now, these subtle movements of the stars show up as subtle shifts in the colour of the light seen from Earth.
That's all the time that we have for in this episode of Insight. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with more technology news and reviews.
We hope you've enjoyed watching our new show of Insight. But by the way, Ghalib, just before we go, I wanted to read a few comments that we've had received from around the world.
do.
First of all, we have Maria Saiba from Pakistan, and she says that she's really enjoyed looking and watching the new show, and especially the new set. And then also we have Hibbert from Canada, who said that she likes the new set and review, but she wants a few more gadgets and a bit more emphasis on the feature of those gadgets, so she can learn a bit more about the new technology incorporated in them.
We'll try to do that in
future shows. So Jazakallah for those comments. We have taken them on board and we want to hear from you, and we want to know what you think of the stories and products that we've been sharing with you today. Also tell us about what you would like to see on our future programs.
You can send us your comments and suggestions to insight@mta.tv, and inshallah we'll share them on our next show.
If you have missed any part of this show or would like to view any past episode of New Insight, please go to our YouTube channel as shown on your screen.
Thanks for joining us. Join us again next time for more insight. But until then, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.